Urban Media Today talks sports with Ray Porter Jr., Vince Butts, and Trevin A. Jones on Urban Media Today Radio.
It's game time!
It's Urban Media Today Talks Sports. We got my man Ray Porter Jr. starting trouble already. Threw the terrible towel over his shoulder as we were coming on the air. I got mad respect. Look at Keith. Keith's mad at me already. He's like, yo, you dissing me right now. We're 11 and up. Got my man Keith Platt Jr. And we got Coach William Greg Hoyt Jr. Got my man Vince Butts and our guest this week, Noel Roach. And Noel and I were just talking before we came on the air. I've crossed paths with this brother before. So we're going to have a good show, man. We're going to have a real good show. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk football. We're going to talk COVID. We're going to talk NBA. Yeah, this is the time we're going to get on Keith, find out what he did. Matter of fact, I'm going to let Vince take over in a second. But Keith Platt Jr., in the second half of this show, we're going to actually go through Keith Platt Jr., go to him, because he came up with an NBA pre-draft analysis before the draft. So it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to let Keith kind of take over, talk about who he thought where they would go, and then where they ended up going, and we'll try to analyze that moving forward. But first and foremost, I will say this before I give it to you. The triple play machine should have gone to the Philadelphia 76ers instead of the Washington Wizards. He's not going to do anything in DC. I think he's even better at Philly. But Vince, go ahead and take it away.
Well, we have a special guest, a good friend of mine, Noel Roach, who's done some pretty decent things on the youth football level. So I wanted to bring him on as we in the midst of this pandemic and trying to navigate sports and whatnot. And one of his teams just finished their high school football season, and some of the questions I had for him were just kind of centered around, you know, how they as a team and individually were had to navigate through this fall football season, and what kind of changes, what kind of things that you guys talk about to the players and the staff in order to navigate this season successfully.
Well, once again, name is Noel Roach Jr. Actually coached here at Penn Hills in Pittsburgh Youth Midget Football League for 7 years. Once my son entered high school, I had to unfortunately step away from coaching the youth. I actually coached basketball for a while too. I coached Vince's son for a couple years in basketball. But in stepping out of that role as a youth football coach, I actually stepped into the role as a booster for the high school football and basketball teams. I'm actually the president of the high school boosters for football. So I was heavily involved this year in regards to, as I am every year, but in regards to the COVID efforts and how to keep the team safe and keep us on track to complete a season. Me and the head coach, we actually have a very good working relationship. So good that he actually put me on staff just so I could attend the games. As many of you all know, with COVID, we weren't able to attend. A lot of people weren't able to attend games. He was able to get me on staff, non-paid position, of course, and just for games. But I was able to go at least see the team play and see my son finish out his senior year. But as far as COVID, I will say that we put a pretty good plan together. We actually didn't get started as early as some of the other teams in Western PA. Maybe a couple weeks behind, because we had to put together a plan like every team did. But I think our plan was really comprehensive, and we didn't have any issues with our plan at all. We didn't have any cases of COVID. We took the necessary steps, whether it was temperature checks and keeping kids away that felt like they were even somewhat ill. So it worked out well for us, and we were able to complete the season. We didn't finish off with a championship like we did a couple years ago when we won the state championship, but at least the seniors and the kids were able to complete the season healthy and happy for the most part.
That's awesome.
And were there things in particular that you asked of the kids to do and maybe even the parents to do during this time?
The main thing that we asked for them to do is isolate from non-teammates as much as possible. When I say that, try to limit your socialization. And I know it was tough. I had to talk to some kids personally that I know are more the social butterflies of the team. Like, limit your outside interactions as much as possible. Stick to your teammates, and even when you're with the team, limit your I guess keep your closeness to that 6 foot distance. Keep your mask on when you're not actually running and working out. We had daily temperature checks. They had a questionnaire that the staff gave the kids as they were entering the facility, and even when, like I said, when they were in the facility, they had to move the weight. They actually moved the weights out of the weight room into our indoor training facility. So half of the weights stayed in the weight room, and the other half were pushed into our indoor training facility so that we could spread out and give the team and the players enough space in between each other so that they weren't on top of each other, and then we just limited them, being on top of each other.
Now, Coach Hoyd we're playing for envelopes, a recruiting service, a nationwide recruiting service, and so he deals firsthand with and how to navigate young athletes through this process, not just the recruiting process, but this, now having this, the pandemic, having to deal with that and being able to throw that into recruiting. How has some of the athletes had to deal with the recruiting efforts since, they're not able to do on-campus visits and whatnot? What kind of things have been put in place to help them along the process?
Great question, Vince. And, first of all, deference to the panel here. Good job, Dad, Coach Roach. I know I've been there as a dad and have your boy go through the Division I process and get recruited. But just to kind of answer the question, what are people doing? What are high school coaches doing around the country? Being that I'm a national company, I'm able to see, my players in Connecticut get shut out. They're marching, on the state capitol trying to play. California's still shut down, but I got clients in Florida that are balling out, clients in Georgia that are playing, clients in PA, baseball players in PA that are playing, football that are playing all over. When you talk about football right now, but they're playing. It's a very unsettling time right now for high school young men. Very, very, the fear, the emotional strain that's on some of the athletes, because this is their coup de grace. This is their heel experience. This is like, if I don't do this, what am I going to do? If I can't help my mom get a house, or help my my family make it out of the hood, make it out of the ghetto, what else am I going to do? So this is a very, very tough time for high school athletes around the country. So you spend a lot of time just checking on kids. Are you okay? You need anything? How your thought process? You see a lot of athletes committing early, right? Unseen, sight unseen. So it's really nerve-wracking for the coaches. The college coaches are nervous because their all livelihood, their whole family, is basically, revolving around a 17, 18-year-old's decision to commit sight unseen. I challenge any of you, grown men on here to, buy a car, right? Sight unseen. You're going to take $40,000, $50,000 and go out and buy a car. You haven't kicked the tires, you haven't driven it around. You just buy it because it's black and it has leather interior. Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot of information there that, would go into that. But what I've seen, like Coach Roach said, a lot of schools are doing, they're changing up their facilities, doing some workouts outside. It's kind of been a step down, or kind of a trickle down effect, because that's what the colleges have been doing all over the country. They've been moving their facilities onto the practice fields, breaking up the weight room into groups, breaking up the workout routines when they bring athletes in. Maybe they'll bring the offense in, train, in the morning. They'll bring the defense in the afternoon, keeping the numbers down. I'm pretty sure Coach Roach will probably talk about this. They've gone so much far as putting lines on the ground, right? This is your workout area. You stay in this box, which is, insane when you start talking about, locker rooms, right? Guys, slapping hands, high fives, the traditional way of normacy that we've seen in the past, Vince, is changed. It's changed drastically. And then you have, of course, some environments that it's so helpless for these athletes. They go back into their home environments where there's 7, 8 people in a one-bedroom apartment, and you're trying to contain COVID, right? Adults and a young athlete is sleeping on the floor. I've seen it. Sleeping in the trailer. I've seen it. 8, 9, 10 people just trying to maintain. No job, no money's coming in. Everything's shut down. People are trying to figure it out. And you try to have that athlete come to the facility, and like Coach just said, you're trying to do temperature checks, you're trying to do all that, but you're sending them back out basically to the wolves. So there's a lot of uneasiness, a lot of unsettling. But again, it's not it's not regional, it's national. So the same thing that Coach Roach is dealing with there on the East Coast, they're dealing with that in Washington, state of Washington. They're dealing with it in Texas. So it's not like anyone is getting an advantage over someone else.
I know you're always trying to find the best fit for these young athletes.
Sure.
Do you anticipate with athletes having, making decisions sight unseen, do you anticipate a lot of athletes or a certain percentage of athletes using the transfer portal, they making a decision thinking it was the best one for them, but then now they're on the campus and interacting with the coaches, and maybe that situation wasn't what they thought it was. So do you anticipate a lot of athletes going in the transfer portal more so than previous years?
Well, I think that so we'll just make sure everyone, even our listeners, know all over the world that listen to the show, the transfer portal has always been there, always been there. But they just really didn't promote it because they didn't want the athletes to believe that they could transfer, that they could leave. That's the deception. Keith Platt, he's a sports marketer, so he understands what I'm talking about. They don't want the athletes to leave. They think they're only athletes. But the portal has given a breath of fresh air to maybe an undeveloped athlete that started out at Division III, and he grew from maybe 6 foot to 6'5", and now he's able to play at a level. Or you got an athlete that maybe had an injury his freshman year going into college, and maybe he just hadn't got back in the depth chart, and he says, you know what, Mom, Dad, I just want to play. So maybe I'm playing at a Rutgers, and I can drop down to Old Dominion. I can play, even though Old Dominion could probably beat Rutgers right now. But but it gives a breath of fresh air to the athletes, and it also gives the athlete. This is just me, Coach Hoy saying, gives the athlete to kind of exit if their coaches leave. Coaches are leaving for job opportunities. Kudos to those guys. Everybody wants to get a better job, right? Sometimes you're fired, right? And things are out of your control. Well, if you're a dad, all you guys are men here with possible kids or daughters. If you're in a situation where your child is stuck at a school, you want to have an exit plan. You want to have give the kids options to exit. The transfer portal is big right now. I just had one of my biggest clients in the country, Jaden Woodbury out of FSU. He just went to the portal today. That's my client. He Army All-American game, but he graduated. And, for us, it's all about teaching the kid about their brand. His brand is big enough where he can exit Florida State and he can pick any school he wants. And that's what you want to be able to empower the athlete with, because it's been so bad and so long where the athlete hasn't had a voice at all. He has been just a tackling dummy in some cases. And especially you get to some of these schools, and I applaud you, Coach Roach, for getting your son prepared to go to the next level. But some of these colleges, they're not even concerned about these kids graduating. They're not even concerned. So we got to understand that there's a large populace of athletes that will never graduate. You look at the HBCUs, Trev, you know the numbers. The attrition at the HBCU and graduation rate is really low. And they need support. These athletes, they need support at these schools. And if there's an ability to transfer, I'm a dad. My youngest boy, he went from a Pac-12 school into the portal, but we got the envelope. We knew what it's about. It's about getting a degree, and if you can exit sports and go play at the league, that's just a start. It's just handing you a kind of a hand up. But how many surgeries, how many concussions, how many things you have to think about for the rest of your life? Because again, we're smart enough now, right? We got social media. You can do things other than play sports. Sports is just a tool to help you get to your desired result. Before, we were always taught, hey, you play this ball, you bounce this ball, you dunk this basketball, you can get out. But what if you don't get out? What if the school you want to go to doesn't have enough spots left? Can you find another school outside your area? So that's just kind of going on there, Vince, with the portal.
Yeah, good stuff with that. You mentioned HBCUs. I got to jump in there real quick and say, Coach, there's a lot of HBCUs that put their focus on making sure the athletes graduate and checking those GPAs, because with the APR system and whatnot, HBCUs are scrutinized a little bit, I believe, more so than they should be. But it's the end of the first quarter. It's Urban Media Today Talk Sports. You got my man, Coach Noel Roach. You got Coach William Greg Hoyt Jr. You got Keith Platt Jr., which is he was a coach, but he may be one day. I got faith in the young man. You got my man Ray Porter Jr. And you got my man Vince Butts. We're going to be right back after this time out.
There was a guy in Food Lion pushing a shopping cart with one hand and using his other hand to hold his shirt over his mouth and nose because he didn't have a face cover. Now, he knew good and well before he left the house that he didn't have a mask, but his effort was so convincing. I mean, by all indications, working incredibly hard to practice one of the 3 W's. I couldn't be mad at him.
It's Urban Media Today Talks Sports. Vince Butts has hijacked the show, so I'm going to shut up real quick. Vince is taking over as we're talking about COVID-19. We're talking about Pee Wee football. Good job, Vince and Coach Roach. Because the Little League guys, you guys know me. I'm like, okay, there shouldn't be any. But, Coach, you don't know me. I'm Coach Noel. You know me, but you don't know what my position has been. I'm that guy that's like, yo, shut it down. Shut it down. Because I think that the health of the students and the young ones is more important than sports. And we as Americans, I think America has proven that sports is bigger than life here in this country. And I think that's ridiculous. I'm a sports fanatic, but I just think that's ridiculous. But I don't want to take away from the show because, you know, I want to rain on this parade. Keith Platt Jr. tell you I rain on the Steelers parade all the time. 11-0 doing it. Look, he's frowning. Y'all can't see him. I can see him. He's frowning at me right now. Go ahead, Vince. I'll turn it back over to you before I get beat up.
One of the questions I did have for Noel was, you have a young son. He's a senior in high school. His last year. What kind of conversations did you have individually with him as a family? About how to navigate this pandemic. It had to be a sort of a tough conversation, and knowing that young athletes nowadays do have a lot of empowerment, a lot of autonomy to make some decisions. How much of a decision was it on his part to play out this senior season?
Well, as far as the discussion, as far as the season, we all were in agreement, my wife, my son, and myself, to have him continue on through his senior season. But even leading up to that, we were ultra cautious. Things shut down in March, which meant, no camps, no, Coach Hoyt was saying, no visits. So we still had to find a way for him to train and still had to find a way for him to get prepared for the season, whether we didn't know whether it was going to be a season or not. So it involved me going to get some stuff on my own. It involved me connecting him with an individual trainer that only worked him and a couple other kids out leading up to it. We just took the ultra cautious approach. We're not going to hang out with friends. We're not doing the things we used to do because it just wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth him getting sick, or even more than that, it wasn't worth him bringing it back home and bringing it to a grandparent or something else. So we took the ultra cautious approach and leading up to it. But the discussion was, let's just be as safe as possible. Let's wear our masks. Let's get in the facility, get our practice in, and get back. We don't need to go hang out. You don't need to chit chat with your teammates afterwards. You can do that over the phone. You can do that all day at FaceTime. They talk over the video games now. You don't need to do anything additional while you're there. I know you love them. They know you love them. So get yourself back home. Let's try to get the season finished. I mean, like Coach always said, it's unfortunate, but there are a number of kids that are literally depending on athletics in some form to get them to where they can get a college education. And that's the one thing I've always impressed upon my children. I have 2 older children and even a younger daughter. Let's get this education. And, for us, football has just been a means to get an education. I told my son many a times, I do not care if you don't play a down of college football. And it sounds weird, but I literally don't care if you don't play a down of college football if you get your paperwork at the end. Of course, I wanted to play as much as possible, and I wanted to possibly make it to the NFL. But if you do not do that, you're a success to me if you get a college education.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Congratulations, man. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Good job. All the parents that are out there listening, this is an example of, a parent that has put priorities on their children. And understand that, I always say this, that, if you have a child and he's taking a test, they don't write down the wrong answer. They write the wrong answer down because no one's taught them the right answer. Mm-hmm. So here's a situation where Coach Roach has taught his son the right answer. And it may not be the popular answer, right? Yeah. Let's go play, go to the league. You guys know the story. It's been said thousands and thousands of times. But he's also given his son and his family an opportunity to be super successful really fast.
Yeah.
And how to eat this elephant one bite at a time. He talked about, whether you play it down at a time, whether you play on a college, it doesn't matter. If you get that piece of paper, it's going to allow you to stay in the room. Your sport's going to help you get in the room, who you are, but your paper, your degree, all of us here, that are even on this call, we know how hard it is to sacrifice and what you do to get in those rooms, and you need help staying in the room, and that paper is going to help you get in there. So kudos to that. Go ahead, Vince.
One of the things that I love about this show is the brotherhood. With past guests, with us as a panel, and future guests. And so, three of our guests here are all fraternity members. We have A Phi A, Kappa Alpha Psi, and Omega Psi Phi. So, one of the things I was curious about, and when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of talk because a lot of the males in my family did attend college, so I didn't hear about fraternities and college life. You guys now, having gone through that, and I know I'm stepping away from sports a little bit, but getting onto a college campus and having sons of your own, have you steered your sons in the fraternal direction that you've taken?
I'll give deference to 1906.
No, I was gonna say I'll let you gentlemen go first. Go ahead. As a matter of fact, Coach Roach, go ahead. You go first.
Oh, I'm in a unique situation. My son does know about Greek life. He has actually participated in some of our social action events. Just trying to teach him to give back. Whether he joins another organization when he goes to college, it's up to him. I will say he has been overly influenced by my fraternity brothers. He actually was working out with one of my older fraternity brothers who played a little bit of pro football and played college football at WVU. So he knows he has options, but he knows what his real option is. But I also support, we kind of rag on each other a little bit, but I support all Greek organizations. When I was actually seeking my organization, I did go check out every other organization, even though I was pretty strong in my intention to become a Q. I did check out every other organization because I think we all bring something to the betterment of our people, and that's just real. I mean, I think if you're living your oath or your creed or whatever you took coming into your organization, you're for the betterment of our people. So, and that's part of it. I mean, to be honest with you, Vince, and the rest of the panel, that's part of the reason I got into coaching. I mean, I see, a number of kids who don't have that father figure. I'm not trying to replace their father. I'm just trying to give them a positive male image in their life to let them know, hey, this is what you should aspire to do. This is what you should be. These are the things you should do. If nobody else is telling you what to do or guiding you down that path, I'm going to help do that. So.
No doubt. All right, Coach, I'll go with you next, Coach. Coach Hoyt.
All right. Well, hey, man, I'm definitely going to brag on the Noops, Kappa Alpha Psi. We founded January 5th, 1911, Bloomington, Indiana. I definitely got to say, from a standpoint of answering your question, Vince, is that if you understand the context of why Black fraternities were established, especially Kappa Alpha Psi was established in a very, very, very racist environment. And during that time, there was huge segregation. You can only imagine what Indiana looked like, the backdrop of that. And so from a standpoint of making social connections and interacting with people that look like us all on the screen and people that sound like us, those that are listening, it was far and near. So there had to be some type of a vehicle to help move that along, because we needed to know, hey, how can I get Coach Roach connected with my sister? She's looking for a husband. Or how can I get Coach, how can I get Pratt? He's trying to get into school because he wants to get in dental school. And we have to create environments and a vehicle to help African-American males move on through the system. I think even right now, we may seem like we're progressive, but we know there's systemic racism. We know that there's a mass incarceration of Black African-American males, and the African-American fraternity provides another vehicle to try to avoid the trappings. Not try, help avoid the trappings. I know with Kappa Alpha Psi, I'm a noob. I wear real shiny. because I'm able to brag about what it is to be a black man in America with achievement out of all the obstacles. Yeah, there's opportunities where I could have went left, but I went right. And also I had noops to depend on, people I can depend on. Even now, even in my business, and I'm pretty sure Coach Roach, he'll kind of attest to this, and Trevin, because he's he's alpha, is that, in relationships, it's not what you know, who know you to pull you in the room. And there might be some opportunities, even in recruiting, even in sports right now, where people are able to see your work ethic, see what you present as an athlete, and pull you into an organization, collaborate with those things, and then you move into a better position because they know your work ethic and they know what you stand for. How much of that exists in Detroit? How many of that, does that exist in Watts? Maybe you might have a different model. Might be the Crips and the Bloods, maybe another gang, or maybe something else that's totally abnormal to a single mom, and you need that. So I really try to stress it from a standpoint of even with my babies, like if you want to be this, you got to be the Noops. Because you got to live with this for 50 years. This ain't let me do a temporary thing. You got to live with this. So Coach Roach and I know Trevin, we live this for 50. We can walk in any room and be like, I represent this and I represent it well. And so when people see that, it becomes very, very infectious. It becomes very, very, very apparent that, hey, this might be success that I keep smelling. Okay. I've talked about this a lot on this call, is that you want to go to the right barbershop to get the right haircut. So again, if you want to be the Noops, if you want to be this, if you want to be standing on this stage doing this, come to this barbershop and we'll show you how to get a real good haircut.
No doubt. I like that, Coach. First and foremost, with this being Saturday morning, I got to say belated happy birthday to my fraternity brothers. Yesterday was December 4th. So we were founded December 4th, 1906. So that being said, that definitely said happy birthday to the bros. I like what Coach Roach and Coach Hoyt said. The key thing for me with Deontay, my son, I didn't steer him in any way, but he was around alphas as he was growing up. Sometimes I even had him dressed up in black and gold when he was I think one of the first pictures I took of him, he was wearing a gold shirt, like a true gold shirt, turtleneck, and then black baggy jeans. And he was only 3. The influence was there a little bit, but as he got older, I always taught him, son, it's about being a man first. Let me tell you all something. It's good to be first, A Phi A, and it's good to be last, Omega Psi Phi. It's good to be part of Kappa Alpha Psi as well, and the Sigmas, and no disrespect to any other organization out there. But the thing that I would stress.
Are there any other?
Okay, well, I'm going to be politically correct when I'm speaking about the Divine Nine right now. But see, I like what Coach just did, because the thing that really blows people away and is amazing is that if you go to a black tie affair, if you go to a business function, you can go into a room and see black men in suits and ties and black women dressed to the nines, and there will be deltas, AKAs, there will be Sigma Gamma Rho, there'll be alphas, there'll be Qs, there'll be kappas, there'll be sigmas, there'll be iota, phi theta, all these brothers in the same room. The distinguishment of all, and if that's another word, that's not a word, I'm creating one, but the way they look distinguished all together is amazing and will blow you away. Matter of fact, you won't even know who's who until they say who's who. Fast forward, outside on the yard, everybody out of their gear, doing their thing. Even more impressive, because now they're saying to you, and I use step shows and get-togethers for example, they said we're the best because we know we're the best, and everybody truly feels like they are the best. At the same time, they show the utmost respect to every organization around them. Yeah, they'll talk about them, they'll joke you and play, but the bond like this is truly through the whole Pan-Hell committee and organization. That's the beautiful thing about it. So that's what I really pointed out to my son, is that it doesn't matter which organization that you're in. It's about that total bond, the sisterhood, the brotherhood, the family. That's why they call it Divine Nine. It's not so that they try to be elite or elite status. It's just that bond. And the crazy thing is, and I know some people haven't gone to HBCUs. I was blessed to have the HBCU experience. To go to an HBCU and experience that same thing, and to be able to share that, brothers, it's in you so much that when you walk around, for anyone who didn't attend an HBCU and who was in a Greek organization, they still look at you and say, "Yo, bruh, how was that? What was that like?" Because they know it was at the next level.
Yeah,
Because I mean, and that's just the amazing thing. So I say this to all people, young people, even my son. It's not about what organization you're in, but just get a piece of that. Because once you get a piece of that, like Coach said, it becomes infectious. And like Coach Roach said, you start to transcend. And as you're transcending, others start to follow or attach, and you start to break out and you become that much stronger because each piece of you that you're giving out is also a piece of that organization. So it's a beautiful thing. I'm glad you asked the question because, I mean, it's something that you can put into words, but the experience, you really cannot give the full definition. I mean, it's just, hey, Coach Roach, Coach Hoyt, am I wrong? I mean, it's just something that you feel like you really.
Exactly. And the one thing that was said is that, and I talk, I work for an engineering firm as an auditor, and I'm surrounded by mainly Caucasian people. I'm actually Facebook friends with a couple of them, so they'll see some of the things we put out, as far as whether it's our Christmas program or thing, and they ask me about it, and they're like, "Is that a fraternity? I thought that was a college thing." I'm like, "No, this is not a college thing. We're in this for life. This is something that I will never leave behind." And I can never leave it behind because one of my brothers is going to not let me leave it behind.
There you go.
And as you can see, add this before you jump up to the halftime, Trev, if I can. And this is for the young people that are listening to the podcast this Saturday morning. When we start talking about sororities and fraternities, and there's something dynamic that happens there, and hopefully the parents are nodding their head right now as they listen to me. Is that when you're able to find a dating pool, or you'll have maybe a female student on campus and maybe a male student on campus, and they're aiming for the same trajectory. It is something very, very awesome about those two coming together and working towards one common goal. We're seeing it now. We're seeing a harvest of 1906, 1911, all these different Divine Nine organizations where we're seeing our own government officials are now part of the Divine Nine, where people are seeing the hard work of people becoming educated, people becoming more and more affluent, people having more and more access. And this is one of the mechanisms that the Divine Nine offers, in becoming a part of whatever organization. It's nothing wrong with having two parents that haven't gone to college and they're hard workers. That exists. But there is another world also where you have these, PhDs, these doctors, the husband is a doctor, the wife is a doctor, to get together. I mean, that's like Black love, right? I mean, we've heard so many horror stories, and Trev, I know we're coming up on a halftime, but we've heard so many horror stories of the Black family, right? The Black family has been up under attack, and I know Pastor Porter, he'll attest to that from a spiritual standpoint. Is that the Black families and the Black man and the Black woman have been constantly drugged through our history, drug and just really demean, from if you read our history and have context of, the miseducation of the Negro, all these different things that have affected the Black. Now you're starting to see we've come through all of that, and fraternity and sorority and Divine Nines have been a vehicle to move us along through this, I won't even say Underground Railroad, but through this railroad. And we're seeing, I mean, it is so euphoric. Even though, I give Coach Roach a hard time, or I give Trevin a hard time, I mean, I sit back and I'm just in awe of what these vehicles have provided for not only these men on this call and you guys that are listening, but their kids' and their community and their neighbors and all their friends and their circle of influence. And it's a beautiful thing. Trev talks about HBCU. I went to a PWI, but at Ole Miss, I had Fisk, I had Russ, I had all these HBCUs that, trust me, I was hanging out at. So awesome.
No doubt. See, Vince, see what you started? It's halftime. It's Urban Media Today Talks Sports. Got Coach William Greg Hoyd Jr., Cap Alpha Psi. Man, Coach Noel Roach, Omega Psi Phi. We got Ray Porter Jr., got that towel on his shoulder. No, anyway, I'm messing with you, Ray. Got Vince Butt,
You know you
Keith
wish you
Platt
had
Jr.
to.
Whatever. It is black and gold, though. I'll give it that. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Hey, let me get a timeout, a full one, because I need some help with the research project that I'm conducting. I want to take a look at Kawhi Leonard, a really nice forward for the Los Angeles Clippers, who took an early exit down there in the NBA bubble. And I also want to do a little study of Lamar Jackson, the reigning most valuable player of the National Football League.
And so if you would help me out with this soul poll and let me know if you prefer Kawhi Leonard's cornrows and nice and neatly parted, going straight to the back, or do you prefer the even more natural look of Lamar Jackson's braids and just kind of flopping around and doing their own thing? Let me know when you reach out and touch me with a comment below when you take the soul poll. Is it Kawhi Leonard's cornrows or Lamar Jackson's braids? Let me know when you take the soul poll.
There it is.
They're not gonna rook us.
No.
Take that for data.
Soul poll.
It's Urban Media Today Talks Sports. We're kicking off the third quarter. Vince hijacked the show. Vince got Coach Noel Roach as his backup, and they came in and just took over everything, man. So that's cool. I don't think Keith Platt Jr. said a word in the whole first half. That's how much they hijacked the show. But he's just waiting. I see it. Look at him. He's just ready to go.
Hey, let
Vince,
him
go
move.
ahead.
I'm gonna turn it over to him.
All right, Keith. The show is yours, bro. What you got, man?
I mean, I don't even know where to start, man. You just threw me
I
in
see
here.
it coming.
Hey, man.
Go ahead, man.
What you say?
I said, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I mean, Steelers, bad game. We'll bounce back Monday. You know, still undefeated, so it's still Steeler Nation all day. But as far as that NBA draft, man, I mean, there's a lot of good things that went on, man. You know, some guys that I like. I'm happy for my man Xavier Tillman out of Michigan State. He went to the Grizzlies. I think he should fit in. Ja Morant, oops, perfect utility, man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Cassius Winston, he's probably gonna be backing up Russell Westbrook in DC. I like that. Obi Toppin to the Knicks, man. What you think of that, Vince? You like that?
I mean, he went home, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
y'all been there, the Harlem legend, basketball.
It's gonna be some pressure though. Playing in front of that crowd.
That's so true.
You know, I mean, he
Might
played
not even
in
be a crowd.
Well, I mean, yes, it's still New York. You know,
Right.
You know, you still have that pull from your hometown, from your family, your friends, and everything. So to me, even though there won't be fans, there'll still be some influence from that arena. So, I mean, he played. To me, he kind of played under the radar. You know, there wasn't a lot of pressure. He wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school. Actually, I think Dayton was one of the few, if only, scholarship offers he had.
Right.
So, you know, he goes to Dayton and he could just ball. So, in one sense, you know, there's a different type of I don't want to say pressure, but there's a different type of situation he's put in where he can just go and just kind of relax and do his thing. But now that you're a professional playing in New York, I hope all the success for him. I hope he has it, but it's going to be a different level for him. And if he can handle that, I think he'll be fine.
Hey, another thing too, man. Shout out to the Ball family, man. LeVar Ball got 3 kids, possibly that's going to be playing in the NBA, man. Hats off to that family, man. For real. I mean, I know people don't like him because he brash and all that, but guess what? He talked it up. He trained them boys, and it's a possibility all 3 of them dudes is going to be in the league, man. It's unbelievable.
Hey.
You think LiAngelo's going to be in the league?
LiAngelo just got picked up. He just got picked up by the Detroit Pistons. If he makes it,
Pistons?
yes, if he makes the squad, then yeah, this is history, man. This is history, man. This is big.
Yeah.
They might not be the most athletic kids, but he trained them boys hard,
Right.
and they look like they're ready to go, man. They TTG. They trained to go, man.
I mean, I'm like, I know about LaMelo, I know about LeVar, but I don't know about LiAngelo. Like, didn't he go to did he go to UCLA as well?
UCLA got caught
Right.
stealing in China, messed his career up.
Oh, that's
Right.
right.
Right. Okay. So I don't know. I mean, that's yet to be seen. Like, I know he got picked up, but it's like, do you think he'll be in the league? Like, do you think he'll make the squad and actually be?
I think so. He can shoot. He can shoot threes pretty good. He's a nice post player. You know what I mean? It's probably not against the best competition he played against when he was overseas or whatnot. But he was on the G League team last year, I think, for OKC. But you know, with the pandemic and all that, he didn't get to play. Like, he suited up, and then the league got shut down. So you know what I mean? That's neither here nor there. But we gonna see. But as far as LaMelo Ball, though, I really like him in Charlotte, man. I think that's a good pick, and they probably gonna have to get rid of Scary Terry Rozier, Vince, because they got Devontae Graham too already there. Somebody. But I think LaMelo could play with them, though, because, you know, he got that Jason Kidd type of passing ability. I think he could really play with them. But non-Scary Terry Rozier, who signed for all that money, he want to be the man. Look for the Clippers to get him, man. Don't be surprised he ends up in Clipper land, because Kawhi still need a point guard.
What's interesting about that is that didn't LeVar play at football for the Panthers?
Yeah, on a practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, so he still played football there. I mean,
yeah.
Was there professionally? That's kind of crazy.
No, he's a good athlete, though. Hey, man, he got a strong game. Big up to him, man. I like it. I love it.
All right, but what about? See, you ain't saying nothing about the number one pick, man. You were the one that was sitting up there.
James Wiseman?
Yes, no.
No, Anthony Edwards.
There you go. Yes, you were the one that was sitting up here before everybody else. Huh?
I think he's gonna be the rookie of the year.
Really?
Yes, to me, he's like a cross between Dwayne Wade and Donovan Mitchell.
Wow.
With the right coaching, he's gonna be turned, man. With the right coaching, he was already coached by who was that? Tom Crane, who had Dwayne Wade at Marquette.
Okay. This same Tom Crane, didn't he also coach at Indiana?
Yeah, and Georgia. He coached Anthony Edwards this past season.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, he's but just imagine in the NBA now, he's going to have better coaching in Minnesota. Got Carl Anthony Towns up there. You got D'Angelo Russell. He could play off of them. Yeah, I think, man, he's already built like a tight end.
You said Minnesota, man. Ah, man. Okay. I'm not a believer in Minnesota. The Timberwolves, I like the logo and everything, but I'm a Carl Anthony Towns fan. Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll see. But we're gonna have to get you to come in here with the whole layout, because everybody doesn't know, bro. You spent some time putting things together, information about the draft picks pre-draft, and it'll be interesting to see how everything lines up. I want to hear your expertise moving forward in the next show as to where they're fitting, how they'll fit, and we'll just keep that going. Matter of fact, every week we'll just come back and touch on that. Let's see what's like Keith Platt's point of view with the NBA. Speaking of the NBA, though, bruh. Okay, it's going to be season's going to start when? Is it starting?
Christmas.
What?
Christmas.
December 22nd.
So it's a shorter season? It's going to be a shorter season, right?
Yeah, okay. 72 games.
My question to you all is this. The pandemic hasn't gone anywhere. So how do you put a whole NBA, not just the playoffs, you're going to have to put the whole NBA league in some type of bubble throughout this season? Because the pandemic's not going to. You got Virginia State. I'm talking basketball, and I just shift to college real quick. You got Virginia State who opted not to play basketball for this winter. You got basketball games being postponed on the college level because of COVID-19. And when you come to tracing, Howard University just had the game against LaSalle postponed because the team that they had just played, somebody had COVID or there was some COVID involved with that team. So nobody on Howard University was said to have had COVID-19, but just the exposure now postponed their game moving forward. So I say that to say this: if that's happening in college, how is the NBA going to do an entire season where they might have to put everybody in the bubble?
A lot of teams already said they're not going to have fans to begin with, though. So in the playoffs, he's definitely going to need a bubble again, though. But right now, I know Utah, I think the Knicks. I don't know about the Hornets, but it's like two. I think Milwaukee, they already said they're going to play, but there's no fans allowed to be there. You watch college basketball right now, there's no fans at most of those games. Michigan State, Duke recently in Cameron Indoor. Nobody there but the coaches. I think selected family. That was all that was there.
Well, I'll say this. The big game I was at on Saturday, they had at least 500, so it was probably.
You gotta speak up, bro. Can't even hear you. Speak up, louder.
How about now?
Yeah.
Now, here we go. Game I was at Saturday had 500 fans, and most of those were probably family. So,
really,
yeah.
And that's interesting you said that. Real quick, Ray, how does that feel? Because Ray, for those of you who don't know, for Urban Media Today Sports, you got Keith Platt Jr., who's a writer. Keith Platt covers Pitt Panthers football. He'll cover basketball. Even sometimes we'll get him in with the Steelers. Then you got Ray, who goes to the Steelers games as well, writes for the Steelers games, and the Panthers hoop games, Panthers football games. You got Vince, who takes pictures of all of them. How are you guys feeling right now when you see the variances in crowds? And then Ray, Ray and Keith, you guys will be up in the press box sometime. How's that? What's that feeling like right now?
I mean, it was weird. I mean, it was weird at first, like the very first time, but you know, I got adjusted to it. Obviously, because of the reason why, of course, but the simulated crowd can almost give you a little bit of an instance, and sometimes think somebody's been there. But you know, but it was unique, especially basketball wise, and how they set up the court and everything. So, and of course, the one thing that's different, and I'm sure y'all get ready to laugh, is the fact that the food is different because buffets are. But it is reality. I mean, because I'm sorry, if you're a media, you'll see the food, and they've had to change up.
Go to fat gas after the game, man. Don't tell me that.
After? How about before? But I mean, but it is different. Though. It's an adjustment, but you know what? You adapt. You know, you adapt, and I tip my hat to the Panthers and the Steelers for doing all that they could about social distancing. If somebody had their mask down, they'd be like, "Hey, keep that mask up." If people are too close, they'll be like, "You're too close there." So, I tip my hat to them. They've done well.
All right. Before I get to Vince, what about you, Keith? When you go to right now, you've been to the Pitt football game, correct?
Yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was at the we game with that NC State without no fans. It felt weird, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then they let fans in for a couple games, then they shut it back down again.
Right.
And Vince, what about you, man? You're taking pictures, so you're all over the place. If they're allowing you to be, right?
Yeah, what they do for photographers, they'll have a select, maybe not even a handful of photographers on the field, and you'll see that for the Steelers and for Pitt football and basketball. They have their own photographers, so they probably keep them. They're allowed to stay close to the players because they probably trace all their steps. For those of us who don't have that close contact with them on a regular basis, we weren't allowed anywhere near the players. So, at the Peterson Event Center, they had us, either at the 100 level or the 200 level, and you had to navigate, as best you could. So, I mean, without fans, it's easy to navigate. But once they brought in fans, now you're starting to intermingle, and so they still at Heinz Field they still try to keep photographers separate from the general population, but it is a bit of a challenge trying to navigate. You're trying to keep your distance. I've been to a couple games. I had people coming down to want to ask questions. Who am I and what am I doing? Everything. And so you're just trying to keep your distance. Like, let me tell you what I'm doing, but you can go ahead and stay back a little bit. The good thing was there was some stadium personnel that come over and say, hey, you're not allowed to be that close, and you have to go back to your seat and whatnot. But when there's no fans, it's not bad to navigate. But once you bring in that extra element, it does get challenging trying to navigate through some of the fans.
That's cool. That's why you, Keith, and Ray get to go. Cause me, man, I'll be out there like, yo, back up. Yo, you too close. Nah, I gotta take this picture. Yeah, you gotta step 6 feet away, brother, sister, whoever. So that's why you guys get to go, and I can't go because I'll be up front with it. Like, yo, you are too close. All right, just stand over there. Anyway, that's the end of the third quarter. It's Urban Media Today Talk Sports. We got Coach Noel Roach here as our guest. We're gonna get back with Coach. And we also got Platt Jr., Ray Porter Jr., my man Vince Butts. We'll be right back after this time out.
There was a guy in Food Lion pushing a shopping cart with one hand and using his other hand to hold his shirt over his mouth and nose because he didn't have a face cover. Now, he knew good and well before he left the house that he didn't have a mask, but his effort was so convincing. I mean, by all indications, working incredibly hard to practice one of the 3 W's. I couldn't be mad at him.
Urban Media Today talks sports. We got my man Ray Porter Jr., got Vince Butts, got Platt Jr., Coach Noel Roach. Right here at home. I mean, we're in Western Pennsylvania. We're in Pittsburgh. I say that because Coach is out there on the front line with the young ones. And I don't mean young ones. I'm talking about Coach Pee Wee and middle.
Well, Pee Wee and I actually helped out with the high school this year, just to get on the field. Yeah,
okay.
Just get on the field and help out as much as I can.
And I commend you because, see, Coach, I would be that brother out there with the football gear on.
Well, I did make sure I kept my mask. I did make sure I kept my mask.
And everything else. But go ahead, Keith. You said you wanted to ask Coach a question.
Yeah, how you doing, Coach? I wanted to know who's the best player you coached and who's the best player you coached against.
This is going to sound like a homer answer, but to be honest with you, probably the best player that I've coached, all around player I coach, is actually my son.
Wow.
He's a safety here for Penn Hills and going to Akron, but he's, as far as just the physicality he brings to the safety position and just his mindset, his the mental aspect he takes into the games, he's always prepared and always has been prepared, even as a young kid. That he's probably the best player I've coached on the football field. Best player I've coached against, and this is going back to youth, this is going back to midgets, Derek Davis from Gateway.
Wow.
Derek Davis is one of those kids, you see a lot of kids on the youth level that you're like, oh, that kid's pretty good. He's pretty fast. He's this. Derek has always had that combination of speed and size.
Yeah.
I always go back to a play, and as the kids are younger, they usually play different positions. So Derek always played running back. My son used to play linebacker, and I remember they ran a sweep one side of the field. Noel comes up, he makes a nice he takes a nice angle, makes a nice tackle on Derek. Boom, it's like a 2 or 3 yard gain. They run the same exact play the next play, and Derek ate Noel's angle up so fast he was down the sideline. Noel took that same angle, like, oh, I'll get him again. There's like, nah, I was kind of jogging that first play. I was at 90%. I'm gonna go 100% on this one. Ate that angle up and was down the sideline, and he learned, you can't rest on your laurels. But Derek was just a kid that I always just kind of could see was going to be good. And we all know what his story. I'm sure going to LSU, 4 or 5 star kid. So he's probably the best player I've ever coached against.
So that's the end of the game. It's Urban Media Today talks sports. We have fun, man. Coach Roach, you got to come back.
Definitely.
I think we shut you out in the second half.
That's all good.
I think we had you going in the first half, and then we kind of got into it and kind of shut you out. So
I ain't want to dominate. I ain't want to dominate the show. I could talk sports all day. Vince, no, I could talk sports all day.
Hey man, it was great having you. You got to not be a stranger, man. Yeah, come on.
I welcome an invite back anytime.
You got the invitation's open. Your cap too. You know what I'm saying?
Invitation's open. It's Urban Media Today talk sports. What I'm gonna do? Actually, I'm gonna go around the room real quick. You only have a minute. Talk about what's going on. We just came out of Thanksgiving, so the holidays. We're looking towards the Christmas. Bitch, start with you. What's heavy on your mind? What you got on your heart?
Well, I was gonna go. I don't want to say heavy on my heart, but I am hoping that my boys, the Cleveland Browns, can get a win this week. It's a really tough matchup. I have a feeling they're gonna really get run over. I don't want to say that nationally, but basically, Derrick Henry is a beast. It's gonna be a rough game, but I'm hoping my boys can pull it out this weekend.
Okay, Titan, what'd you believe? All right, Porter Jr., what you got, man?
Another note on your favorite team, the Steelers. It was just unfortunate to see the injury of linebacker Bud Dupree, and just the fact that he took the snap and just crumpled to the ground like he did and pulled it and just grabbed his leg. It's unfortunate because this is a man that worked hard to turn around his career. And what did they do? They switched him switch sides with Watt, T.J. Watt. And then last year had 11.5 sacks. This year had 8 sacks, obviously on his way to his first Pro Bowl. And of course, this is his contract year. So now he tears his ACL, and I'm sure he's going to work hard to get on back. So I wish him the best. Naturally for the Steelers, it's a hit. So it's time for 3rd-round pick Alex Highsmith to show what he can do. And I honestly hope they do pick up at least a veteran. But, we know the Steelers believe in the next man up philosophy. So, well, we shall see. But we're praying for you, bud, man. And then you get on back into the league, man.
Keith Platt Jr., what you got, man?
Man, I'm just going to say my prayers for college basketball because I'm so excited that college basketball is being played right now. But if you guys are in college basketball, pay attention to the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They got my favorite point guard, keep an eye on Cade Cunningham. He's the #1 recruit in all college basketball. Top point guard, about 6'7", playmaker, can post up, can shoot, score. He's projected as probably the #1 pick in next year's draft. Cade Cunningham is going to be a stud.
All right. Coach, what you got? Coach Noel Roach.
Real quick, kind of piggybacking off what Brother Platt said there. What's on heavy on my mind is actually high school sports, high school basketball, and other winter sports. I did see that Pittsburgh Public Schools has decided to push the start of their winter sports back to January, and I understand that decision. I just hope we can be safe and hopefully find a way to get these kids out playing if we can. If we're not, we just got to think about them and try to make sure that they have access to the opportunities that sometimes athletics affords them that they may not have otherwise. But I understand we need to be safe, and I just want everybody else to be safe. COVID is real and it's still here to stay, despite what you're hearing about vaccines and that sort. They're not here yet, so just be safe and hopefully your families are safe.
No doubt. I like that. So I'll piggyback on what Coach just said. I'm going to say this to parents. Sports is fun. Sports can be important, but sports are for fun. Your child's health is more important than going out there and trying to get that scholarship, trying to go out there and play football or basketball or whatever. Make sure life, and I said this before, life trumps sports. All right? Don't get it twisted.
Yep.
Think about the child first. I know some of you all think you are and say, we got to play the games. You'll protest that we got to play the games, but you got to be allowed to play. Keep that in mind. It's Urban Media Today, Talk Sports. Trevin A. Jones. We got my man. I didn't mean to say my name first, fellas, but I hadn't said my name all night. Trevin A. Jones. We got my man Keith Platt Jr. You got Coach Noel Roach. Thanks for coming, Coach. You got Ray Porter Jr. and Vince Butts. We'll see y'all next weekend.
Urban Media Today talks sports every week on Urban Media Today Radio, where you can listen in on free music and podcasts on our SoundCloud station at Urban Media Today. And for more information, log on to urbanmediatoday.com, your lifestyle, entertainment, and sports blog website.
What type of games being played? How's it doing that? I get up, all right?